Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 185, and for this one, we're playing high stakes at Bellagio. We're playing 10-20, and we get into quite a few interesting hands. You guys are gonna love it. But before we get started, I have two announcements to make. The first one is that Andrew and I are doing a meetup game at the Hustler Casino. That'll be November 20th and the 21st. So if you're out there and you want to join us for some poker, then hope to see you there. And the second one is I'm not really big on doing interviews very often. I put a lot of my life, in the vlog already. So, but there is an interview that's going around there that maybe some of you have seen clips of. I'm not real proud of it. I don't want to say I was ambushed by the interview, but there were definitely some very aggressive journalistic tactics that were employed, and I was certainly caught off guard, and not something I'm real proud of. But I've always thought it was best to share things with you guys, and so I threw that interview at the end of this video if you want to check it out, just because I don't want to be running from it forever. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today we're at Bellagio battling in the high stakes area. I was on the list for both 5-10 and 10-20. They called me for the 10-20 first. I buy in for 5,000. It's uncapped, meaning there's no max on the amount of punishment to be had. Hopefully we won't be on the receiving end like it was last session when I lost 4,000 in 5-10. Today, we could potentially win or lose much more than that. I'm barely above my 50K profit goal for the year, so I really don't want to lose and dip below the mark, but I'm trying not to think about it so I can instead focus on playing my best. I finally make it to the table. It's a brand new game, and we're sitting next to Japanese gamble vlogging legend, Masato. This is my first time ever meeting him. He has a massive following and is an all-around cool dude. It doesn't take long before the action finds us. Just 3 hands in, I'm on the button with pocket aces. The hijack opens to 60. He is not going to like what's coming. I 3-bet to 200. Since we're both in late positions, the hijack might think that I'm 3-betting him light. He puts in the 4-bet to 600. What a dream to right away find myself in this situation. I'm considering whether or not to 5-bet at the moment. Whenever there's a 5-bet, it'll look extremely strong, so I'm concerned that it could scare off the opponent. On the other hand, there's a good chance that he has something towards the top of his range that he'd be willing to get it all in with right now. If I flat, there could be some flops that are scary for him, making it so that I potentially wouldn't be able to make as much money by flatting and trapping. I go with a 5-bet to 1,400, freeing the yellow bird into the wild. My sizing gives the opponent 2.5 to 1 on a call, but he'll have less than a pot-sized bet left in his stack if he simply flats. I'm hoping that he'll just jam a hand like ace-king, kings, or queens. Over a minute goes by before the opponent folds. He'd later tell me that he had ace-king. That's not something that I'd expect most people to fold for 200 big blinds, particularly in this game. If that's really what he had, then that's a great laydown. Either way, we get off to a nice start and are up several $100s right off the bat. A few orbits later, it's our turn for ace-king, and we're under the gun. It's nice to pick up premium hands while playing higher stakes. I open to 60, a player in middle position 3-bets to 200. The cutoff cold calls. When I see a 3-bet over my early position raise, it's scary because the middle position opponent could have the same hand or a better one. Still, I Matumbo him and say, no, we're not playing for 200, I 4-bet to 800. The 3-better likes my play less than I liked Brussels sprouts as a kid. He folds, the cutoff folds as well. We win another couple hundred, and we haven't even seen a flop yet. It'd actually take over an hour before seeing my first flop of the session. That's one of the key differences in higher stakes games. There's a lot more 3 and 4 betting pre-flop, and as a result, fewer flops are seen. Here we're in the big blind with 8-7 suited. The cutoff opens to 60. I call to defend. We're heads up out of position. There's a big blind ante game, so there's 150 in the pot. The flop comes 7-5 deuce with 2 diamonds. We've got top pair on a connected board. I check to the pre-flop raiser. He bets 120. It's a fairly large bet. My hand has quite a bit of value, but it's most likely not going to improve on future streets. I won't like seeing any overcard or any card that brings in a flush or a straight, other than perhaps an 8, but I still won't even love the 8 of diamonds. I want to win this now. I raised to 400. The cutoff snap folds, which I'm very happy to see. If I'd gotten a re-raise, I would have had to have folded, and if the opponent called, the turn and river could have gotten tricky for me. Next, we're dealt pocket kings on the button. Under the gun opens to 60. The cutoff calls. We're going to turn the pain up to 11 for him as we 3-bet to 260. The under the gun player checks his cards and decides his hand is a good one to lose piles of cash with. He calls. The cutoff mucks immediately. We're heads up in position in a 3-bet pot. The flop comes ace king jack with 2 diamonds. We've got middle set on a very connected board. Under the gun checks. I'd feel significantly better about this if one of the diamonds on the board was the ace. The reason for that is because he's going to have all kinds of ace-x of diamonds combinations in his range. I don't want to slow play, I bet 400. The under-the-gun player quickly folds. He likely had a small or medium pocket pair. Could have also had suited connectors with no diamonds. We're off to a good start and are up 1200 without any decisions that are too tough since we've been getting dealt a lot of great starting hands. We get another one here with ace-king offsuit and the hijack. I open to 60. My buddy Jake is in the cutoff. He calls. The button calls. The big blind calls as well. We're going 4 ways to the flop. It comes king 9-6 with 2 hearts. We've got top and a backdoor flush draw. The big blind checks. I've got a solid hand and I don't want to give 3 opponents a chance to see a free turn card, especially when there are lots of draws out there. I bet 180. The cutoff lets his cards go right away. The button is having a much harder time finding a fold. He raises to 640. This opponent is an older guy who's from around the same area that I'm from in Northern California. Typically, people north of the Golden Gate Bridge are pretty honest, good people. Or they're on meth. He doesn't strike me as someone who falls into the second category, so I'm taking his raise at face value. I'm probably up against a made hand like a set, or a huge draw like Jack 10 or 8-7 of hearts. There's some slight chance that this is a let's see where I'm at kind of raise as well. If he has a hand like King Queen, King Jack, or King 10. The big blind folds. I could be in bad shape, but I at least have a backdoor heart draw to fall back on that I'll never hit. It's too early for me to fold and be able to live with myself after. I call for 460 more, not feeling too confident though. The turn is the Queen of Hearts, and despite picking up a flush draw, it's a bad card since the most obvious draw gets there, as well as Jack 10. And King Queen now also has us beat. I was already losing to hands that he could have raised me with for value on the flop. Now I'm losing to hands that he could have been semi-bluffing with. I check. Perhaps the opponent doesn't like this card either. He checks back. The river is the 4 of hearts. Forget everything that I said earlier about never hitting the backdoor draw because we hit it here and this is a sizable pot. I can't check since the opponent didn't seem excited when the heart came out on the turn. I doubt he'd bet with a 4th heart on the river if I check to him. I'm going to fire, but I'm not sure for how much. If he doesn't have a heart, he might not want to call any amount. I settle on a bet of 800, hoping that he'll either somehow have a smaller heart or he won't believe that I'm doing this with value. It's tough for me to be bluffing though. About 30 seconds goes by, then the player reluctantly folds what he'd tell me was pocket 6s.
Good fold. That's not the set. What? That's a good one.
Usually in higher stakes games, I don't show my cards. I make an exception in this case since the opponent and I have been friendly with each other, and he told me what he had, which made sense the way that the hand played out. When I lost 4,000 in the previous session, things weren't going my way that often. Well, to be fair, I bluffed off a lot of that money, but let's forget about that for now. Today, even when the dealer puts out a flop designed to wreck my world, the poker gods give me a run out to sneak away with a victory. I'm up 2,400 with no plans to slow down at any point soon. We pick up King 10 suited in the cutoff. The player in middle position raises to 60. In the past, I'd always call with this hand in this situation. In higher stakes games, you have to mix it up because people are paying closer attention. As many of you know, I've been getting coaching from Nick Petrangelo, and those sessions are being filmed for part of a comprehensive cash game course on Upswing that's currently scheduled to come out in January. Here's a sneak peek at one of the pre-flop charts for cutoff versus a middle position open when stacks are deep and there's an ante. Yellow represents a call, and green represents a 3-bet. You can see that we're supposed to be 3-betting King 10 suited a little less than 50% of the time. I go for it here, making it 200. The middle position player calls for 140 more. We're heads up, in position, and the flop comes all ducks. Not only could I have 3-bet pre-flop as a bluff with ace-deuce suited, I'll have aces and kings in my range that the opponent won't have since he didn't 4-bet. The opponent checks. I bet 140 like I would if I had aces, expecting to get calls from all the players' low and medium pocket pairs, maybe even some of the stronger ace-high hands. The player calls, which isn't too surprising. The turn is the 5 of diamonds. This is when I plan on increasing the pressure. The player checks. I want to get folds out of maybe ace-king offsuit, ace-queen, and a smaller pocket pairs other than 5s. I bet 520. I'm mostly just representing aces and kings with this line, and there's no reason so far for the opponent to think that I've got anything worse than that. If he has a hand like 7s, he's not going to like how this is playing out, and he's going to have to be worried that if he calls here, he might have to call a huge bet on the river. He does call, and once again, his range gets narrowed down. He probably just has 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, or queens. The river is the 6 of diamonds. The backdoor flush gets there, but that's irrelevant when 3 of a kind is on board. The opponent checks again. I'm considering bombing it because it'll be very difficult for the opponent to call me since his range is capped, although there's some slight chance that he has 5s or 6s full of deuces. Still, I'll have more combos of strong hands than he will. I can't help but think about how I bluffed off a lot in the previous session, and that's making me fearful of pulling the trigger here, especially since I got off to such a good start today and recovered a lot of the previous session's losses already. I don't want to have another failed bluff attempt cause me to lose not only the session, but also confidence for when I play future sessions going forward. I just think that I'll have to fold 8s, 9s, 10s, and maybe even jacks if I bet a large amount. The fear keeps coming back that he's going to snap call and crush me though. I can't do it. I reluctantly wave the white flag and check back. The opponent turns over pocket 9s for the winner.
Exactly what I thought, yeah, nice end.
The worst part about this is that the player would later tell me that if I had fired one more bullet, he would have folded. Fully committing to a 3-bet triple barrel bluff can be scary, but sometimes committing only 75% to a play is even worse. This one's bothering me since I wimped out, but at least I'm still up 1350. Shortly after, without king 5 offsuit in the big blind, the small blind limps in. I check to see a free flop in position. The dealer puts out queen 5-3 rainbow. We've got middle pair. The small blind checks. I bet 40. The opponent puts in the check raise to 160. Having a 5 is a pretty key card. My gut is also telling me that I have the best hand. I call for 120 more. The turn is the deuce of diamonds. I'm not happy to see this because I could have been up against some type of semi-bluff that has now made it straight. The small blind checks. I have showdown value and this pot is already larger than I'd like it to be for the strength of my hand. I check back. The river is the 10 of hearts. The small blind puts out a blocker bet of 40. I'm getting 1 billion to 1 and I make the call because I pretty much have to. The opponent turns over jack 10 offsuit. He check raised me on the flop with the backdoor straight draw, then rivered a better pair than me. I was already a little annoyed at myself with the king 10 hand, and after my opponent gets bailed out on the river this hand, I'm even more on edge and the game isn't as good as it was earlier, so it's best for me to call it a day in order to get back into the win column. But wait, we get dealt pocket queens under the gun with chips in the rack. Usually, I don't even like getting dealt in under these circumstances. There's no way that I'm folding though. I open to 60. The big issue is that it's obvious to the table that I've got something good. The button calls, the big blind also calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It comes 8-4 deuce with 2 hearts. That's not a flop that'll connect well at all with someone's under the gun range, especially when the person is playing out of the rack. What's worse is that it'll connect really well with the button and big blind's calling ranges. The big blind checks. I check so that I don't get blown off my hand. The button bets 140. The big blind folds. I'm good with 140. I call. The turn is the 9 of hearts. The flush draw gets there. I check. The button looks to be concerned. He checks back. I should have the best hand a lot of the time. The river is the 3 of hearts, so there's 4 to the flush on board. My hand has gotten worse and worse. I check. I'm actually not sure whether I have a heart or not at this point. The button takes a stab betting 140 again. I do a heart check. I realize that I don't have one. This has been a frustrating way to finish the session. I've under-repped my hand the whole way for pot control. I don't like the idea of pot controlling and then folding to a small bet even though there's a good chance that I'm beat. I call. Good news, we're not up against a flush. The opponent has pocket 3s. He had a 2-outer on the river, then took me to Value Town. Not that there was much question, but it's definitely time to book the win. It's gotten smaller and smaller, and get the hell out of here. I played for just over 3 hours. I wasn't planning on filming today. Jumped into 1020. It was pretty decent to start out, but then it got worse and worse kind of as the day went on. I won 560. I think I was up 2,400 at the high point. Everything was going really well. And then those last 3 hands, I was just kind of a little bit upset with myself about, because I really wanted to pull the trigger on that king 10 of spades hand, but I didn't. And then, you know, I lost in the blind versus blind hand with king 5, and then last hand I'm dealt was pocket queen, so I had to play that out of the rack and lost. So I could just feel myself kind of getting more and more frustrated, and thought it was best to book a win after losing 4,000 in the previous session. So I mean, anytime you win, anytime you leave the casino with more money than you came in with, it's a good day overall. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section and I'm happy to get back to you. All right, let's see what happened in this video. So I ran well in the beginning, things worked out, and then started losing, called it a day. I think that's a good thing to do if you feel like things are going in the wrong direction and you suffered a big loss in the previous session, and you know if you lose again after being up that either you wouldn't play your best or it would affect you going forward, it's a good idea to rack up and head out. All right, guys, we've got the meetup game coming up at the Hustler Casino in Los Angeles. Hope to see you guys there, and hope you're all doing well, staying safe. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
What's your name?
Phineas Tuckman.
What is it?
Phineas Tuckman.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. I'm Brad.
Hi, Brad.
Hi.
Is it okay if I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Just to tell you, I'm recording this for my school.
Okay, no problem.
We're doing a passion project.
Cool. What's your passion?
YouTube videos.
Awesome.
So my first question is, how do you get so many subscribers?
Well, I wish that I knew exactly how I got so many subscribers, but what I think happened is that I started my channel and I was doing things that not very many people were doing when I first started out. So there was kind of a big demand for videos about poker and the poker lifestyle. So I make videos about my life as a professional poker player, and I think people enjoy watching those. And yeah, luckily it's worked out. The YouTube algorithm is something that is very complicated, so it's tough to know exactly why I got so, but I just worked really hard at putting out a lot of videos, and luckily a lot of people tune in.
Okay, and for my second question, what if they don't like your videos?
That happens occasionally. You have to deal with people who, just for one reason or another aren't interested in the content that you create. And sometimes that's difficult dealing with people in the comment section, but you have to just do things that make you happy and make the kind of content that you enjoy making and that you think you would enjoy watching as a viewer, and not be too concerned, because you're never going to be able to make 100% of people happy.
Okay, thank you. And for my third question, how can you not be scared if a bunch of people are watching you?
That's a really good question. I try to block it out. So I kind of have what's called social anxiety, where I get nervous around a lot of people, particularly people who don't really understand what I do for a living. If they don't understand poker, it's tougher for me to communicate with them, and I block it out. So I don't think about how many people are watching. Usually when I'm videoing, it's just me in my room by myself. And when I start thinking about how many people are actually out there viewing the videos that I put out, it scares me a little bit. So I try to avoid doing that.
Thank you. For that, for my fourth one, how do you become a good YouTuber?
Well, you have to pick a topic that a lot of people are interested in. So for me, there are, tens of millions or maybe even 100 million poker players out there. And you have to provide value. So that means you have to do something and talk about things that are useful for other people, or you have to be entertaining. And if you can be both those things, where you're providing insight or knowledge for people, and also being funny or doing something that captures people's attention for a long period of time, that they find interesting, then they'll watch videos longer, and then YouTube will promote your channel to more people, and then you'll get more subscribers and more viewers.
Thank you. And for my last question, how do you do it?
So what exactly do you mean? How do I edit the videos, or how do I?
How do you like
Can you clarify that?
How do you like make them?
Okay, so I do everything as simple as possible. I actually video everything on my phone. So let me show you an example real quick. So I video my hand at a poker table. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And then I do voiceover analysis. So once I'm done videoing at the casino, I'll come back to my house and I'll write out a script to give the analysis of a poker hand that I play, and then I'll record it using this microphone, and then I'll sync my my audio with the poker hand, and then I'll add graphics, I'll add music, and then I'll upload it to YouTube, and then people will view it, and then they'll write comments on the video, and then I respond back to the comments. I try to respond to as many as possible.
Thank you, and those are all that I have right now.
All right. Thanks a lot. Great interview.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.